These are my 5 favorite tech products. From productivity to creativity, they help me streamline my workflow, stay connected, and unleash my creative potential. Whether I'm just editing videos, capturing moments, or just staying organized, these tools make my life, well, easier. Let's talk about how they do that. Let's start with the iPad Pro M1. This is my ultimate productivity tool. I literally do everything on it. There's just something about it that brings out my creativity. I guess it's the fact how easy it is to do creative work on it. The pencil is always there, there's lots of apps for creative work like Lightroom or Photoshop. They're just a tap away. If I need to write down a random idea, I could always do that. It's light so I can take it anywhere, and it's powerful enough that I can edit videos that I put out for you guys right on the iPad. So I'm not tied to one place when working on my creative projects, like editing pictures for my Instagram. The iPad really enables the more creative side of me, because when I was editing pictures on my computer, I didn't like it as much. It kind of felt like a 9 to 5 working at my desk, but with the iPad Pro, editing has become something that I really enjoy. Also, despite it being 4 years old, it's still blazing fast and has an impressive display, even by today's standards. It's the same panel as in the current gen MacBook Pros. By the way, if you struggle choosing an iPad to buy, I have a video to help you with that. The next thing on the list is my Sony a6700. I've always had a passion for photography. It had started with me getting the iPhone 4 back in the day, and up until 2023 I had used an iPhone to take all my pictures. That's when Sony released the a6700, and I decided that my passion for photography had grown big enough for me to buy a real camera. And this one ticked all the boxes. It literally does it all, and for an affordable price. The autofocus is insanely good. In fact, it's the best autofocus on any camera in this price range and even higher prices. The color science, it's outstanding. It just has that Sony look. If you know, you know. Low light performance is excellent despite it being an APS-C sensor. It handles high ISO like a champ. The battery lasts for a decent amount of time. Shutter speed is pretty fast, 4K up to 120 FPS. Obviously, it shoots log, and so on. There is literally nothing I could complain about, maybe besides the fact that it can only hold one SD card at a time, so you won't have a backup if your SD card fails, which might happen, so I don't think it's suited for professional work like shooting weddings, for example, but that's okay because it was never meant to anyway. Also, because it's an APS-C sensor, it's a lot smaller and lighter, which I like a lot. So that's why I paired it with a light and small Sigma f2.8 lens. So yeah, this camera is a powerhouse. Whether you're a beginner or a semi-professional, it'll do it all. I could recommend it to anyone and be sure you'll end up satisfied. Sometimes it's the simplest tool that can make a big difference. I've got this 3-in-1 charger of Temu for like 10 euros. As a joke, back then I didn't even expect it to show up, but now I use it on a daily basis. The magnets are strong, it doesn't heat up any of the charging devices, and it actually charges all 3 at the same time. I barely paid anything for it. A quality stand like this from a reputable brand would run you around 50 bucks, but not this one. And it's been in use for over a year with no issues. It doesn't even look that bad, so safe to say I've been impressed and pleased. So remember how I said earlier that I used to take pictures with my iPhone? Well, I still do. Don't get me wrong, I still use my Sony camera a lot, but the iPhone's camera has become so good that I found myself relying on it. Recently I had went on a little road trip and the only camera I took with me was my iPhone. The photos and especially videos coming out of it are incredible, and while obviously they're still nowhere near the real camera, they've become a lot more than just passable or good enough for Instagram. And now that 2 out of 3 sensors are 48 megapixels, you can also print the pictures and frame them without anyone noticing their iPhone photos. Having such a good camera with me at all times really pushes me to be more creative because of how easy it is. Like, for example, I've grown my Instagram to 10k subs just because I had such a good camera with me at all time. It's also plenty fast, so I have no problems editing, mixing, or color grading on the fly, and the battery life is decent as well. If you want to learn more about it, I've got quite a few videos on it. Next up, the AirPods Pro 2. These are my absolute favorites. They were actually a gift from my girlfriend because I never saw a reason to upgrade from my first gen AirPods Pro, but ever since I started using them, I kind of fell in love with them. The ANC and the responsiveness has become way better. The switch between devices is instant, and they're also a lot better at drowning white noise. So they've been essential for me for when I'm trying to focus or concentrate. The sound quality quality has remained about the same, but since it cancels a lot more noise, it has kind of indirectly improved too. By the way, I also have a video comparing AirPods. With those 5 essentials covered, of course I couldn't leave out notable mentions. While they didn't make it to the top 5, these notable mentions play a big role in my workflow and setup. Now, I've never been a keyboard type of guy. I know there's people building them themselves, and there's a huge market for that, but I just wanted a sleek, low-profile mechanical keyboard that sounds cool, and that's exactly what I got. I've been using the Cooler Master's K650 for quite a few years now, and I've not had any issues with it, despite having gamed on it quite heavily, as you can see from the few letters that have worn out. I remember setting the LEDs was kind of a pain in the ass, but overall, the keyboard has been nothing but a good experience for me. So I always wanted a PC that looks good, but since investing money into better parts rather than buying RGB was always a smarter choice, I've never got to experience that until I built this PC. Here I went purely for the looks, the performance didn't really matter all that much. And so it has a water-cooled 12600K and a 3070 Ti, while also having 9 RGB fans and 4 overpriced RGB ROM sticks. Obviously, had all that money gone into parts, I would have had a 12900K and a 3080 Ti, but as I said, I really wanted to build a PC that looks cool, so that's how I ended up with this. And to be honest, ever since I built it, I've barely been playing games on it. I'm mainly just watching YouTube, which is kinda ironic, but even the performance that it has is more than enough for me. There's not been a game I couldn't run with at least 120 frames per second. Maybe that will change soon, but I could always upgrade the parts. By the way, if you'd be interested in more content on PC related stuff, write that down in the comments. The monitor that I've been gaming on is a 2K 27-inch 144Hz curved ultra-wide monitor. It's got decent colors and response time, so it's been a joy to game on. Can't really say much else about it. I also think it's out of production anyway. And the last but not least is the mic that I record these videos on. It's relatively cheap and it sounds decent. I've got it for €100 back when I started my channel, and at first I had a few hiccups with it, but it was mainly because I didn't know how to use a microphone. The battery life is decent, there's 2 mics in the package, the wireless connection is very strong and stable. Can't really say anything bad about it. If you need a mic on a budget, this is the one to get. So those are all my favorite tech products that make my life easier. Which one of these would you add to your setup? Or do you have any must-haves that I've missed? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're in there, subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.